Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Fairfax. We hope you enjoy this sermon from a recent Sunday worship service.
For many years, I have consulted with nonprofit boards, and I used to do a lot of board retreats. For those retreats, I would often ask board members not to look at the mission statement, but to write it out, and then write down what it specifically meant, and then not share their answers with anyone else before we met for the retreat. You can use that if you want. I have to say, it was fascinating how varied the answers were and how diverse the thoughts were about the mission of the organization, the concept of what the mission actually was supposed to do, and the way the mission was supposed to be carried out. This leads me to one of my favorite sayings, which some of you have heard many times. In the absence of clarity, people fill in their own meaning and context. Right? We, Unitarian Universalists, like to fill in our own meaning and context. About a lot of things, actually. But we are also guided by the practice of this tradition. We have formally 7, now 8 principles that many of us have known since joining Unitarian Universalism. We have the newly adopted UUA values, but there's far more than that. There's Unitarian history and theology, there's Universalist history and theology, there's Unitarian Universalist history and theology, and philosophy. And certainly there is history, culture, mission, and a shared understanding of the practice of Unitarian Universalism locally and in each congregation. For example, aside from the values, principles, and purposes of our association, our individual congregations come together and devise their own mission statements in which we operate and from which we often plan and implement our ministry with ourselves, each other, and the world. So again, we adopted our mission statement somewhere around 20 years ago. And I'm not sure if you've all been watching, but I think the world has changed somewhat in the last 20 years. And also this congregation has changed in that time. And as a reminder of our mission statement, I just want to say that I still absolutely love it, and it's one of the reasons that I came here, is to transform ourselves, our community, and the world through acts of love and justice. Since we started talking about the living the mission process, we also have been saying that at least 2/3 of our congregation is new since the mission statement was adopted. And we've also begun this living the mission process because although UUCF is filled with wonderful, smart, and talented people, and good looking too, I must say. The pledge campaign's coming up, so. I'm going to guess that not everyone here or online could recite our statement word for word, and frankly, I wouldn't expect that. Now, if I were going to ask someone who's been here for 30 years and someone who joined 2 months ago, what does transform mean? What are acts of love and justice? I'm guessing, although it could be close, there would be some work to do on shared clarity. Another thing is, I really don't want to glaze over the fact that although change is always occurring, the world certainly has gone through some dramatic changes since the mission was adopted. With the events taking place in the country and the world right now, I believe that this kind of organization is absolutely essential. Perhaps more important now than ever. You see, we make an agreement when we come together, or as we would call it in Unitarian Universalism, a covenant, because we are a covenantal faith, not a creedal faith. Our covenant with one another, the purpose of this congregation, our efforts, our leadership's efforts, our board meetings, our lay ministry, our worship services, our professional ministry, our religious exploration programs, our small group ministries, our music, arts, and social justice activities, and everything else that we do in this congregation is to serve our mission. To actually be a community that is intentionally working to transform ourselves, each other, and the world in a world that at times is focused on sliding back, not moving forward. So, what is this Living the Mission initiative that we are undertaking starting today? Well, again, it is designed to be a congregational process to explore what it means to live the mission now. In these times, with these people, with this culture, with the societal issues and understandings of Unitarian Universalism we are now facing, not 10 years ago, not 20 years ago, not when we were founded, but in 2025. It is the hope of the professional and lay leadership of our congregation that this process will inform a new understanding of our strategic direction. A direction that certainly can't be separated from where we are at this moment in our country. I continue to worry about where we are in this moment in our country. This country so flawed and yet so full of promise. This country so fearful of the other and yet beckoning the tired, the poor, and the huddled masses yearning to breathe free. This country so threatened by autocrats and demagogues and yet able to find the will through the horror of war with so many sacrifices of a generation to fight fascist impulses in the world. This country never living up to its ideals and yet imperfectly striving for those ideals in order to form at least a little bit more of a more perfect union. I don't know another way for us to try to save this country other than to the best of our abilities, try to live up to our ideals, not giving up when faced with all the imperfections, broken promises, fears, and threats. Now, it would be foolish and grandiose to think, however, that we Unitarian Universalists alone can transform this country into a beloved community. Although sometimes I think we think that. But that is not what I think our mission statement is calling us to do. Our mission statement is an aspiration. Our mission statement is asking us to actively practice the principles and values of Unitarian Universalist tradition, placing love at the center of all we do. Placing love at the center for ourselves would be hard enough, yes, but then trying to have us apply it to our community and our world, well, that is asking a lot. And frankly, yes, it is asking a lot. And I believe I can't in good conscience really give any of us a pass on that. We are being called upon, as young or as old as we are, whatever stage we are in our lives, whatever work we've done to transform ourselves, our community, and our world before today, to live this faith. We are called to live this faith and these aspirations of our mission statement as much and as passionately as possible. There have been plenty of times in our collective history where the mission would have been a vital call to this faith. But in this moment, this unique and dangerous time to so many whose lives are under threat and so many threats to our collective values, this calling to live our mission is as important as it's ever been. Now, I realize that this isn't a mega church, but we are no small group of people either. There are hundreds of people in this congregation, including our children. We fan out into all kinds of places, jobs in the government, defense contractors, teachers, social workers, doctors, that place where no one talks about where they work, somewhere over in that direction. Those who work in the home and those who work near or in the White House. If we are looking to live this faith in our mission statement as much and as passionately as possible, whether it be how we live our individual lives or how we dare to try to transform the world through love, I would say now is a pretty damn good time to do it. I often wonder how and when we will ever come to our senses and know that the only way for us to live together on this planet is to not try and get rid of those who think differently than we do. The history of humanity has taught us this lesson again and again and again, which is why movements for positive change almost always stress our common humanity and call for transformation centered in actions of love and justice. And this congregation's mission isn't some trivial word salad designed by a group of overworked volunteers trying to check their task off and get home for dinner. The mission of UUCF is a reflection of the core of a faith that has been transforming ourselves, each other, and the world for centuries. A faith that cares about supporting heaven here on earth. A faith that has love at the center and preaches hope, not hell. That is who we've been. That is why the world needs us so badly. And that is where we are being asked to go boldly and passionately, emergently and resolutely into the future, together, wherever that may lead. Therefore, this living the mission process won't be modeled after traditional strategic plans that one might undertake in a corporate setting or here in government-driven Washington, D.C. Because whether we are always comfortable or not with the language, this is a religious community. And the time has come to engage each other in this intentional process of discussion and discernment, not just about goals to achieve, but dreams and hopes and possibilities, and what course we can set together as we flow into the future, nimble and understanding that we are in a time of rapid change and that the world is aching for the values we hold dear in the practice of this tradition. When I say we're going to take a strategic direction, that means this is the beginning of a journey of hopefully some shared clarity about our mission. A discernment process in the hopes of understanding what practicing our mission means for now and in the future. And here's why. We see it every day. On the news, social media, with friends, with family, we see things with which we are deeply struggling. Again, I know it. You know it. You see it. But there is also goodness and happiness and creativity and innovation and joy, of deep and abiding connection to our common humanity, and this needs us. These things need our intention and attention. This goodness, this joy, this connection to our common humanity, this planet needs people like us, devoted to doing whatever we can to bring this elusive idea of beloved community into a movement, or at least somehow make it more real. For all of us, children and adults, the mission, the principles, the values, they are a moral calling to give birth to a great turning as quickly as possible. A turning that turns us towards each other rather than away, that has us recognize the interconnection of our common destiny, that speaks to us of not just survival but thriving, all of us thriving, and that helps to actually maybe someday help us be a congregation where love is incredibly transformational, where we live in a just world, where with ourselves and each other, with great boldness, we intentionally and with focused effort dare to believe in the possibility of truly a beloved community for all. May that be so, and amen.
Thank you for listening to this sermon from the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Fairfax. To listen to more sermon podcasts, go to uucf.org/sermons and scroll down to sermon podcasts.